For 6 years, Olivia walked the same halls, mop in hand, quietly scrubbing floors that no one cared to notice. She worked the night shift at the prestigious Delton Aerospace Research Facility, where some of the brightest engineers in America worked on experimental propulsion systems. Olivia wasn't one of them. She was just the janitor. She wore the same gray uniform every day, kept her head down, and spoke only when spoken to. No one knew her last name. Most didn't even know her first. But what no one realized was that Olivia noticed everything. While engineers brainstormed on whiteboards and argued over blueprints, she swept quietly behind them, reading diagrams upside down, watching how they handled wiring, listening when they talked about system failures. She had no degree, no formal education past high school, but her father had been a mechanic in the Air Force, and from the time she could walk, she had learned more in his garage than some learned in college. The facility had one major project, a prototype propulsion system meant to revolutionize aerospace travel. But something was wrong. Every few months, the system failed. It stalled, overheated, or simply refused to start. The engineers were baffled. Reports were sent, consultants brought in, and each time the same answer returned. "We're working on it." Olivia watched it all unfold. Every failure, every fix that didn't work. And night after night, she mopped around the test bay, glancing at the wires, circuits, and interface panels. One night, something caught her eye, a cable cluster that looked misaligned. She paused, looked again. No one else had noticed it. But she had. That night when the room was empty and dark, Olivia did something she'd never done before. She put down the mop and picked up a wrench. Olivia's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the wrench. For 6 years, she had cleaned around this equipment, never touching, never interfering. But tonight felt different. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She just couldn't ignore what she saw. She crouched beside the tangled cable cluster near the power control unit. From a distance, it looked fine. But up close, Olivia noticed a small gap where the thermal regulator's connector didn't quite sit right. The engineers had been checking the software, the external wiring, even replacing entire parts, but no one had inspected this exact junction. She didn't rip anything out. Olivia worked slowly, carefully, like her father had taught her. She disconnected the power supply, realigned the connector, and reattached it with precision. Then she tightened two bolts that had been just slightly loose enough to cause vibration under pressure. She didn't even realize she'd been holding her breath until she finished and stepped back. The next morning, the lead engineer, Dr. Trent Harris, walked into the test bay expecting another delay. His team was already discussing how to file the latest failure report. But when he powered on the prototype, it ran. Smoothly, flawlessly. Everyone stared at the screen as data poured in, temperatures stable. Power flow uninterrupted. For the first time in months, the system didn't just function, it performed at peak. Dr. Harris blinked, confused. Who adjusted this silence? Anyone touched the unit last night? The team shook their heads. Security footage was checked. No engineers had entered. Just the janitor. Olivia sweeping as usual. Harris frowned, replaying the footage again. There at 2:13 a.m., Olivia had paused at the unit, bending down, doing something. The camera angle wasn't clear, but she was definitely interacting with the system. He turned to the room. "Get her in here." Olivia stood just inside the doorway, her hands folded, eyes lowered. She still wore her gray janitor's uniform, dusted slightly with cleaning powder. Around her, the room fell silent. Engineers, scientists, people with master's degrees and decades of experience watched her like she didn't belong. Like she was in the wrong building. Dr. Harris approached, holding a tablet. He wasn't angry, just curious. "You were near the prototype last night. What exactly did you do?" Olivia hesitated. Then she spoke softly. "One of the thermal connectors was misaligned. It was feeding unstable current into the main array. I realigned it, tightened two bolts." There was a long pause. "You're a janitor," said one engineer, skeptical. "How would you know that I've been watching?" Olivia said calmly. "For years, I don't interrupt, but I pay attention. And I've seen that same error occur over and over. You replaced the wrong parts. The heat signature was wrong every time." A second engineer scoffed. "That's impossible." "We checked it. She's right, doctor," Harris interrupted. He looked back at the data logs. We overlooked the internal alignment. No one ever thought to check the subconnectors, someone muttered. This is crazy. But Harris wasn't laughing. He walked closer to Olivia. Where did you learn to spot something like that? My dad, she replied. He was an Air Force mechanic. He taught me everything under the hood. After he passed, I took this job. Didn't have the money for college, but I never stopped learning. That changed something in the room. The tension didn't vanish, but it softened. Dr. Harris studied her for a moment, then turned to his assistant. Get her a visitor badge. Today she's not cleaning floors. Olivia blinked. Sir, I want you beside me while we run the next phase. If you're seeing things we're not, we need your eyes. She nodded slowly, still unsure what this meant. But deep down, for the first time in years, Olivia felt like she wasn't invisible anymore. By the end of the week, Olivia was no longer just the janitor she was sitting in on engineering briefings, quietly taking notes while top minds debated propulsion dynamics. At first, some team members whispered or rolled their eyes when she offered suggestions. But after her third correct prediction, the room started listening. Olivia didn't just understand the system, she saw patterns no one else caught. One afternoon, the team hit another roadblock. A feedback loop was causing unexpected power surges during ignition. Charts filled the wall, theories flew back and forth. No clear answer. Dr. Harris glanced at Olivia. Anything jump out? She stepped forward slowly, eyes on the screen. The surge isn't the problem. It's the sensor trying to overcorrect too fast. It's reading the surge as failure and shutting everything down before the backup can stabilize. Silence. She walked to the diagram and pointed. If you delay the sensor response by just 0.3 seconds, the secondary unit has time to balance it. The room stared. An engineer tested her theory in the simulator. Seconds later, the system ran clean. No surge, no shutdown. Dr. Harris smiled. She's right. Again. That night, Olivia stayed behind not to clean, but to walk the halls with her visitor badge clipped proudly to her collar. She paused outside the janitor's closet where she'd spent 6 years in silence. She didn't resent those years. They taught her patience, humility, and how to watch closely when no one was watching her. The next morning, HR called her in. They offered her an entry-level technician position with full training support, benefits, and a path forward. Olivia accepted, holding back tears. Months later, Delton Aerospace announced a major breakthrough in propulsion technology. During the press conference, Dr. Harris thanked his team, then paused. And to the one person who reminded us that titles don't equal talent, Olivia Reed, our newest engineer. Applause thundered across the room. Olivia stood in the back, smiling not for the recognition, but because after 6 long years, someone finally saw what she was capable of.